Afternoon. I'm Richard Dickinson. I run XM Cyber in the UK. The first thing to say is we're an Israeli cybersecurity company. Surprise, surprise. And I'm the only British person in the company, so I feel the odd one out sometimes. But what's important about XM Cyber is we're a relatively small company, and many people think we're a startup. The reality is we were founded in 2016. The first 2.5 years we actually operated in stealth mode, which basically meant nobody in the outside world knew we existed. In those 2.5 years we actually ran like a private beta with loads of big brands, many of which became clients. So everything from military to governments to financial services to government to insurance companies, and I think 40 or so came on board. We actually came out of stealth mode in middle of 2018, so technically officially we're a 1-year-old startup. The reality is we're a 4-year-old company. Please join us, you've missed the good bit.
Oh, what a shame.
This is good for the regulators. So we came out of stealth mode middle of 2018. Now, in our first full year, we've actually won over 40 global awards. Some of them are like confetti, people give you them just because you come and sponsor events. Other ones are very important. World Economic Forum, we actually won the Technology Pioneer Award in our first year. Now normally that award goes to very big, very well funded global cybersecurity companies. We actually won that in our first year, which gives a great validation for our technology, and probably more importantly, who actually owns XM Cyber. So as you can see, we've got 35 patents on the technology. Now, I don't want to give too much away, but that's probably the important part. The owners of the company were the former head, deputy head and the CTO of one of the Israeli intelligence services. Okay, if you want to really know what it is, it's in the name. We're X, somebody beginning with M. So the technology comes from a military intelligence services background. This is a commercial business, and we're able to do some very unique things. The guys knew when they retired from the service that there was lacking a solution that could continuously answer these two questions. On the face of it, they're very easy questions to ask, very difficult questions to answer at scale on a live production network. So, are my critical assets secure? What are the most critical security gaps do I need to remediate? So think about that. Live production network, real time. Does any client really understand the answer to those questions every minute, every second of the day? They don't, unless they're using XM Cyber. So what's the problem? We all live in a world of dynamic networks and systems. We've got IoT, OT environments, we've got the cloud, and this creates challenges for all businesses. Where you've got dynamic networks with vague perimeters, they're prone to human error. Trying to use manual tools to identify and prioritize attack vectors continuously at scale on a large infrastructure, it's not feasible. You haven't got enough time in the day, you can't hire enough people to do it. And because of that, you've got something we call like an asymmetrical battleground going on, which basically means all clients are trying to protect 100% of their assets. The reality is a skilled adversary, if they've got the right know-how, can bypass your security controls. It needs to find a very small chink in your armour. And because of that, your risks are poorly defined, security investments are inefficient. And actually, when you're looking at security technologies, there isn't really one that identifies realistic attack vectors that use real, legitimate human behaviour or user behaviour. So the current solutions in the marketplace that many people are using, legacy solutions, vulnerability management, I've used lots of them. The reality is they represent a very small subset of a hacker's toolkit. There's no focus on remediation or prioritization of it. And the key thing is they ignore attacks that leverage user activity. On the flip side, show of hands, how many people do pen testing? Do it yourself, employ a third party. This is traditionally, it's a manually driven, consultancy driven exercise. It's point in time. No one can do real-time pen testing, on live production assets at scale. Why? You've got machines that you configure, manually trigger, sending real payloads across a real network, opening up real shell scripts. It creates disruption. And the reality is, companies understand the risk of the critical assets. They don't want these tests to be done on live systems. So what have we done? We've brought to market the industry's first cyber attack simulation and validation platform that runs on a live production network completely non-disruptively. It is designed to not trigger existing security controls. Okay? That's the red team part. What we're able to do is identify all hidden attack vectors on a live production network to your live critical assets. Now think about that. All hidden attack vectors on a live production network non-disruptively. Then, on the blue team piece, we can actually, one click of a button, generate an automatic, actionable remediation report on demand, laser focused on the actual attack vectors that are hidden to you. So we've got the attack piece, we've got the remediation piece, completely non-disruptive, live production. So how are we doing that? We have three pillars to our technology. We have user activity, vulnerabilities, and we have IT hygiene and misconfigurations. So what is it? We've built a machine that acts and feels like a real ethical hacker. Yes, it can run automatically. The key thing is it can run continuously, as we've said, in a live production network. It's designed to run safe. As we've said, no active components, no active payloads, passive payloads, synthetic malware, whatever you want to call it. We don't need to do it. So how are we doing this? You can tell which my slides are, they're very bright. We deploy a piece of code. So if you look on the right-hand side, we deploy a passive sensor onto endpoints. Endpoints being defined as desktops, Windows and Mac, and servers, Windows and Linux. It's a passive sensor. It's doing one thing at scale. It's looking at background telemetry running on the endpoints. Okay? So we're looking at metadata, binary, hashes, we're looking at privileges that you're using, we're looking at Active Directory, groups, domains and things like that, but we're doing it in a way to not trigger security controls. All of our active components are in the North server. These are two virtual machines that reside either in your private cloud or fully on-premise with no connectivity to the internet. To be fair, the second option is really for our military clients. In the commercial space, most people put the North and South server in their own private cloud. So think about this. We've got a two-way conversation going on. There's two parameters you set for the machine. Your breach point, where would you like to start a test from? This could be a physical machine, a single machine. It could be a part of your network. It could be a system with these type of characteristics. And what you're basically telling the system is, if this system gets breached by a skilled adversary, is he able to go inside my network, bypassing my security controls, to actually compromise a specific asset? So you define two things, a breach point and an asset. So what we're doing is a two-way conversation. We are doing real things. So we're checking reachability on a network. If we see credentials held in cache memory on machines, we're able to hash them or harvest them, then hash them to make sure that no human can actually read these credentials, but the machine can actually retry the credentials at an opposite end of a conversation. So if you think about this, we've got a dynamic hacker's playbook for all of our techniques. So what does that mean? We know the conditions that need to exist, say for example on a Windows server, to run Eternal Blue. Okay? So we dynamically check the conditions are there. If we get a green light, where it's like, yeah, we can do all of these things, the only thing we don't do is actually run the exploit. So it's 100% safe. If you've got a security control which is optimized either on the endpoint or in your estate, and we can't check these conditions, guess what? We just move on to another potential path to complete our mission, which is, can we compromise the asset? Does that make sense to people? So what we've got is this two-way conversation going on with a dynamic hacker's playbook, all non-disruptively. This is a quick video. Before I press play, every hexagon is a domain, You can actually change the view if you want to see it as a network. The system will automatically visualize your estate. The piece of code is stateful that's sitting on the endpoint. It knows its IP address, it knows its work group, it knows its domain, it knows any custom tags that you've created for it. So all the visualization, automatic. And for many clients, for the first time, they can visualize their network as seen from the eyes of a hacker. Okay? If I press play on this, let's see if this works. Try again. No, you see it didn't do it. Okay. What you would see, come and see us downstairs. We can show people live demonstration. We've actually connected to our live environment. So if you want to see a live demonstration of the platform, please come and see us. But in effect, let's say, for example, you define this as a start point. And you can't really see, but you can create an asset, which is usually a star icon. And the system will show you a replay of hundreds, thousands of techniques to try and get to this end goal. And what you're able to do then, for the first time, is visualize how many, is it possible to compromise my asset? Yes or no? Yes, we can. Okay. Then what you want to know is, how did you actually do it? So what you normally see down this side is a full forensics output, a bit like you would get from a pen test. We show you the steps that we were able to do. It is all time-stamped. So we're not just simulating like theoretical, we think we can do this. We're actually doing this, but in an ethical manner. So time-stamped, every step, forensics. With one click of a button, it's usually this one, we can actually tell the system, please generate me an automatic remediation report. The system will build an automatic report, no humans involved, which you can then give to your security operations team. You follow the steps. We've got actionable advice for all options. This is not like vulnerability management where you get thousands of things and very generic output. This is go to this domain, this machine, do this, and you will fix the problem. So think about high impact remediation. A couple of things I want to talk about here. This is an important one. People ask me often, okay, you're a piece of software, you're a platform, great. But where do you get your intel from? So, big statement. We have the elite offensive cyber team in Israel. Okay? Guys sat there all day looking at the latest attacks. We have commercial feeds of intel, we have non-commercial feeds. As an example, back in January 2017, we got a non-commercial update from somebody who said, you might want to look at this, guys. We had a look at it, we weaponized it internally in our lab. We thought, do you know what, this is potentially very disruptive. Within 48 hours, we had built an ethical hack for this exploit. We had dynamically sent it to all of our clients, to all of their North servers around the world. Within 72 hours, all of our clients knew which Windows servers were susceptible to Eternal Blue, which 5 months later became WannaCry. Okay? So they had a full 5-month window to do their remediation. That would have been great for lots of people that got hit. But all of our clients knew. So that's the benefit of having an offensive cyber team internally from an intelligence services background. We're privy to lots of things just because of the background of the company. Okay? That's one of the big things. This is the second thing. Fully secure and invisible. What you don't want to do with this type of technology is put something in your infrastructure that creates even more alarms for people, even more workloads for your SOC functions or your third parties. The key thing is this is silent. It's designed to be silent. So you understand the problem, the solution. What about the outcome? What can you expect from this? From a planning perspective, if you've adopted an ISO 27001, you may be doing PCI or some other type of framework, all of a sudden you can move to a place where you can make data-driven decisions. What we're showing you is not theoretical. These are real attack paths on real-life systems. So all of a sudden you can augment what you're doing with actual fact, not assumptions. You can reduce the risk of breach of your critical assets. So what do we mean by that? Think about being able to generate a foresight report on demand before you get breached. You can generate this report any day, any time of the week. to understand these are my attack paths to my real critical assets in real time. This is how I fix them. Again, if you had this intelligence and this knowledge, it'd be very difficult for you to get breached as long as you were doing the remediation. Key thing is, we're not a security control. We are a proactive visibility tool. So we are not looking for real threats or trying to detect real threats. That's a different area of cyber. What we are about is proactive visibility of real attack paths. So from a test and compliance perspective, the industry for the last 30 years has been using manual tools, point-in-time consultancy, and people have just accepted it. But what you can do is move away from a point-in-time model to a fully continuous model. It allows you to empower your internal team to do more with less. This is not about reducing or getting rid of people. This is not about not doing traditional pen testing or vulnerability management. You need to do both of these for general operations, etc. But this is about allowing your teams at scale to do the infrastructure and the network continuous assessment. Repeatable, continuous, 24/7. Dynamic security rating. The business can have a finger on the pulse of all of their critical assets for the first time. We show a dynamic security posture of all of your estate. Imagine we've got a scale of 1 to 5. 5 is great, 1 is poor. Imagine if you were a 5 across your 1,000 critical assets. Wouldn't it be great if you understood immediately if the machine was able to all of a sudden compromise one of these real critical assets in live production? And we can push that alert into your SIEM or ticketing system. And then you can go into the system and you can replay what the machine actually did to change the security posture from a no to a yes. But you can do that before a real skilled adversary does the same techniques. Remediation. No longer requiring you to just patch for the sake of it. I mean, how many people here who use vulnerability management, get lots of output, and you just go, oh, go and patch everything? I used to do it in a telco. It's like, oh, I've got thousands of them. Where do I start? Laser focused, prioritize remediation. If you fix this, you will actually fix this real problem, you know? So it's high impact remediation, lowering your IT costs. This is an interesting one. I was with a telco yesterday. They said, yeah, but we like this, but wouldn't it be great if you could answer me the what if? You know, before I actually go and spend thousands of pounds and thousands of man days on doing all this remediation, could you actually tell me what the impact would be if I actually did this work? Absolutely. Ask the machine, what if? What if I do this remediation? Does it have a positive impact on my security posture as an organisation or not? Because guess what? If you do the remediation and it's a lower security posture, why would you do it? So we can answer that question as well. So this is me a few years. I've been known to play a bit of chess. And this is why I think it's important. It's an analogy, but here we go. So I play a bit of chess, and I've been known to play by myself sometimes. Why do I do it? I line up my security controls, my pawns, and I set up my assets, my kings and the queens, and I try a few techniques against myself. Okay? But it is no substitute of playing against a real skilled adversary or an opponent. XM Cyber can shine a light on your infrastructure, fingers on the pulse, and we can show you every attack path to any one of your critical assets, 24/7, no humans involved, and tell you how to fix it. Think about that. If I knew when I was playing chess, every possible move that somebody could do against my assets, I would never get defeated. And this is the premise of XM Cyber. Any questions? Deathly silence. Does it make sense?
When I had a brief word with you downstairs, I was talking about how this is how it's paid for, and you said annualised. Completely understand that because it's a continuous protection, annualised subscription. And can you expand on that a little bit more now? So I threw in IP address, and you went, no, hang on, it doesn't. You're not going to get charged to get switches and stuff like that.
Yeah, so good question. It's a site license based on the number of endpoints in your estate. So endpoints being defined as desktops and workstations, Windows or Mac, and servers, Windows or Linux. So Windows Vista upwards, CentOS, Ubuntu, Red Hat, Linux servers. These can be virtual, these can be physical, they can be on-premise, they can be in the cloud. Why do we do this? Think about like a satellite navigation in your car. We're putting a piece of code on all of your endpoints. If we only put code on, say, some people call us and say, do you know what, I've got 10,000 endpoints, Richard. I just want to buy 10. And you say, okay, it's a bit like telling a sat nav, you've only got visibility of 10 roads, but from where I live in Yorkshire, I want to go to London. You know, what I really want is the visibility of all the roads in the UK. Because you know what, on some roads, there's a breakdown, there's a traffic light, there's some sort of disruption. We need all the visibility. So what we are doing is a site license. Clearly, if you're really large, we can do a phased approach. But what we're doing is an annualized subscription service. It is a platform you're buying. It is under your control. We do not see your data. It resides in your private cloud or it resides on-premise. And it's fully inclusive. You can create hundreds of user case missions in parallel that can all run 24/7 across multiple user cases at scale. Sorry?
Aren't you just applying game theory by Nash? Something that's been used since the Cold War?
Well, you know, from our background, we're from a, you know, offensive cyber, red team, blue team, army, intelligence services. What we're doing, the architecture I showed you is unique in the industry. The sensor, the machines. It's no different than, you know, a pen tester, a good one. He can use a real pen test tool. He can link it with a vulnerability management tool. He can use another tool for his applications. What we've done is condense all of these tools into an automatic machine, but without the danger, the inherent danger of running a real payload. We're not running on a real network using your real bandwidth. So you are correct. It is a well-trodden path of manual tools. We're the only people that can do it automatically.
I was just wondering how or if your solution protects against zero-day vulnerabilities, because from what I understood, you're testing against known attack vectors, right?
Yeah, so here's an interesting point. I was on a call about 6 months ago. One of the banks asked that exact question. Do you know what our offensive cyber team said? We've not seen a zero-day attack in over 2.5 years in the wild. So you see all of this stuff in the press about 0 days. We've not seen one. It's a rework. There's been lots of reworks of other attacks, for example, but in a true unknown, brand new 0 day, we've not seen one in 2.5 years. Now, because we've got an offensive cyber team, if there is one, and one of the agencies is aware of it, we'll know far before anybody in this room. A non-public source. But I don't believe there is real 0 days. There has been.
So there are already deviations or
deviations
of existing.
Absolutely. And the interesting thing is, we do see them. We can test for them. We do see them as an offensive cyber team. But Intruder, a real brand new one, you know, the cost of making a real 0 day, it's into the millions, tens of millions. Your average criminal does not have them funds. Even nation state, they're still reworking existing types of attacks.
Well, I guess they don't need to. The easy pickings are on simple.
That's right. Absolutely. Absolutely. The key thing is, we are not doing threat detection. We're not looking for these real attacks. We're showing you, simulating and validating that we could do these known tweaks of attacks, and we're showing you real attack vectors in your live production network now and how to fix them. So it's preemptive. Make sense? Any other questions? Anybody want to see a live demo downstairs? Sure. If you all want to, yeah, anybody that does, just all come at the same time and we'll log into our live environment and show you a real live demo, because for whatever reason the video is not playing, so I can't really show you it. Just about half an hour? Okay, thanks a lot.